What's going on, guys? Stefan here with you, S&E's Garage. We're going to be doing some repairs on this Jeep today. We are trying to get it ready to launch a jet ski, and I want to be able to make sure I could fix all of the leaks that this thing has so that we're not polluting our waterways or anything like that with oil. So we're going to be tackling one of the most common and most commonly misdiagnosed oil leaks on this 2001 Jeep Cherokee. Now this is going to be valid for any 4-liter inline 6 Jeep engine that uses an oil filter adapter instead of the oil filter just threading right onto the block. They had to use an adapter on these because with how the unibody is, a filter wouldn't fit without turning it 90 degrees. And they do like to leak after a while. The rubber O-rings harden up and they start leaking. And they kind of mimic a rear main seal because it leaks in that back area. So I wanted to show that to you guys today and show you the tools you're going to need to fix it. So the easiest way to see if your oil filter housing is leaking is to start your Jeep and let it run. And you'll see that fresh oil will start accumulating right between where this adapter meets the block. And that's how you know you have a leak there. Now if you see, there is not a whole lot of room to get a tool in there in between the motor mount and the adapter itself. So you are going to have to, kind of make your own custom tool. And I'm going to show you that now. So to replace this, you're going to need a T60, right here you'll see T60 Torx bit. Now the issue is, with this piece on the bit and a ratchet on the back of it, you're not going to have enough room to clear that with the frame rail in the way. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to stick this guy in a vise here, put a punch on the back of it, and you're going to have to punch this bit itself out. And then you're going to need a 10 or a 12 millimeter wrench, which here we have my offset wrenches, to fit like this on the end of your T60 Torx bit, and that will give you the clearance that you're going to need to pull this oil filter adapter out. Now if you do have an oil filter housing leak, it will soak your starter in oil and it can cause it to fail. So that's another reason I'm doing this. I don't want to have to put another starter in this because we just did one probably about a year ago. You'll see if you scroll down in my videos, I did a couple videos with this Jeep, and a starter and an alternator were two of those things that I fixed. So I'm going to go get my oil bucket. We're going to stick it under the Jeep. I'm going to pull the oil filter off so it's a little less weight, and then we're going to go ahead, try to break that oil filter adapter loose and replace the O-rings. Now what we have here, I'll drop a link to something similar or the same one in the video description below, is a Felpro O-ring set. It's going to be ES72962. And this will come with all the O-rings to basically rebuild your oil filter housing so you don't have any more leaks. So for all intents and purposes, I put these oil filters on by hand, so I should be able to, get this off relatively easily. So let me go ahead, pop that off, and then we're going to work on the housing. Alright guys, so we got our oil filter off. We're not due for an oil change yet for quite a while, so we are just going to reuse that oil filter. You'll see it sitting right there. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 90-degree pick, and I'm going to get in here like this into where the Torx bit goes, and I'm just going to kind of make sure there's no dirt or sand or debris in there, because I want to make sure that that Torx bit is going to slide right in. So you'll see we got a little bit of dirt out of there. So now let's go ahead, grab our Torx bit, put it in, and I'm going to show you how to break it loose with the wrench. So there you'll see our T60 Torx bit is in. We got our wrench on the end of it, and now it's just as simple as cracking it loose. Now this bolt is very tight. If I need, to put a cheater on it, I may have to pull my coolant overflow off, which is very easy, just a couple 7 or 8 millimeter bolts, and it comes right out. So we went ahead and removed our coolant reservoir. We're going to be using a jack handle as a cheater pipe, because this thing's on there tight. So we're just going to go ahead and stick our jack handle on there. We're going to attempt to break this loose. There it goes. All right. Let's get the jack handle back on there. Now we should be able to get it off by hand the rest of the way. Let me go get my 10mm ratcheting wrench. We'll get this off the rest of the way. Just like that, your oil filter housing is off. You can go ahead and put it to the side. Now, my O-ring is actually seized. I don't want to say seized, it's stuck onto the engine block. So we're going to use, again, our 90-degree pick, pull it off. And I just want to show you how hard and brittle, and you'll see that it's also flat, whereas the new one is nice, soft, and malleable. So let's go ahead, clean up the block, pull this oil filter housing apart. There's some O-rings you're going to have to change inside of it too, and I'm going to show you all that now. Alright, so the next thing you're going to want to do is take your housing like this, and you're going to push, and you'll see we're getting a gap right there, and that screw will pop out. And then there's some O-rings here. There's one here and one here. You're going to want to change them as well. So you'll be changing 3 O-rings in total. You don't have to pull this thing out and change anything. This is just thread locked in there, and if it leaks, it's going to leak internally, so it doesn't really matter. But these are the 3, 1, 2, 3 that you're going to want to be changing. So changing these is very simple. You're going to take, again, 90-degree pick, flathead screwdriver, whatever you got, and you're just going to work it off like this, and just set it to the side so you can match it up with the O-rings that are in your kit, because you're not going to use some of them, but you want to make sure that you're using the right ones in the right location. So let's set that right here to the side by the filter, and then we're going to do the same thing here with this O-ring. Pop it off, work it off, set it to the side. Now we can go ahead and open our new box, or our new O-rings, and check it out. So we got out our smaller O-rings and we matched up the ones that we need. It's going to be this one here and this one here. So the first thing we're going to do is take this big one, slide it down into place like so. You just kind of walk it on as so, and then we're going to take this one. You just want to be very careful not to tear this one as you're walking it over the threads, but just like that. And now we're going to wipe this off. And I have some silicone that I'm going to put on these. You can use oil, silicone, you know, anything you want, just to kind of lube it up before you put it back into the housing. So let me go ahead. This is technically brake parts lubricant silicone, but it's basically like dielectric grease. So it's the same type of thing. But we're just going to put this like this on this O-ring, and then we're going to do the same thing here on this O-ring, and then we're going to take this, slide it back in like so. Now we're going to go ahead, clean this indent off for our large O-ring. Alright, so we got that cleaned out. We're going to go ahead, put our new O-ring, the large one, in, and then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to use this silicone, and we're basically going to use this like glue, and it's more or less going to keep this O-ring from moving when we go to install it onto the engine block. So I'm in the video description. I'm going to drop a link for this gasket set. I'm going to drop a link for a long 10mm, 12mm wrench with combination. And then I'll also drop a link in for the adapter that you're going to need. But like I said, buy a cheap one. I'm going to link a cheap one because you're going to have to take it apart. You're going to have to put it in a vise and pound the bit itself out, because you're not going to be able to get a ratchet in there with how much room we have to work with. So now that we're ready, we got Everything's siliconed in place. We're going to go ahead, install this on the engine block. If you look, there's a little dowel pin sticking out of where the oil filter housing goes. That's going to go right in this notch on the filter housing, so it sits back towards the back of the engine. So to get it started, we're going to use our T60 here, and we're going to use our 10mm ratcheting wrench and get it started, and then we'll do a final tightening with the combination wrench. We're just threading it in by hand right now, as far as we can. Now we're going to take our adapter, and like I said, our 10mm ratcheting wrench. We're going to make sure we have it oriented correctly. Alright, now we don't have to kill this, but we're going to take our longer wrench here. We're not going to use our cheater pipe, because you don't really need to. It doesn't need to be very tight. The O-rings will do a good job sealing. So we're going to go ahead. Similar to what you would do to an oil filter, give it like a quarter turn, maybe a half turn, until it's tight. And that's it. So now we can go ahead, reinstall our oil filter, put our coolant reservoir back, start it up, check for leaks. Guys, we got our oil filter back on. We are just going to take some brake clean, spray this off real good. That way we get rid of any traces of oil, so if we do have a leak, we can see it. Right, wipe it down. I'm going to apologize ahead of time for my neighbors barking dogs. They're obnoxious. But here's how it should look with your oil filter housing reinstalled and your oil filter on. Just everything's nice and tight. We're going to go ahead and put our coolant reservoir back in, tighten that up, fire it up, check the leaks. Guys, so we're going to start it up. We're going to check for leaks. When we're done checking for leaks, we're going to shut it down, check the oil level, because we did lose a little bit. If you're doing this when you're changing your oil, not as big of a deal. You always check it after you fill it up, but that's just something I'm going to do real quick. So let's fire it up, check for leaks. Pressure is going to be the highest on a cold start, so if it's going to leak, it's especially going to leak when you first start it. And everything here appears to be good. So if this video helped you change your oil filter housing adapter O-rings on your, I don't know, 97 to 01 Jeep XJ, I'm sure that they have these prior. So basically any XJ, please like, share, subscribe. Like I said, I'm going to add all the links to everything you're going to need down below. If you're going to purchase them, please purchase through my links if you're watching this video. They help our channel grow, and we would really appreciate that. So we'll see you on the next one.